Hello everyone, my name is Ronnie Brock and I will be the facilitator of today's training. During today's training, we will be covering the process of asking those probing questions. So what does it mean to be customer focused? Being customer focused means listening to the customer and responding to what the customer says, including taking their point of view and not your own. Tell me what you guys think about this. A couple of weeks ago, I woke up and I had the worst stomach pain. I was really sick. I called my doctor to see if I can get an appointment, and he said to me, "You know what? I had a cancellation this morning. I was supposed to take this guy's appendix out. Tell you what, we've already got the tools ready, and the surgical staff is scheduled to come in. Why don't you come on in at 10 and we'll take the appendix out?" What do you think about that? We didn't get a diagnosis. This may not even be what's wrong. The doctor has automatically assumed he knows the problem. So, what does that normally boil down to? Malpractice. He didn't see me, didn't ask any questions. He just assumed he knew my problem because the last 10 patients that came through his door had stomach pain, and it was their appendix causing it. This is why so many doctors require you to come in and have a visit, so they can prevent malpractice. So, how do salespeople commit sales malpractice? By selling what they like or what's on sale. How many times do you think we commit sales malpractice at Sprint? This is something we do all the time. In a lot of situations, our customer walk in, we maybe ask 2, 3 questions, and then we think we know exactly what they need. We do not do a good job at diagnosing their situation. And mostly it's because we only see it through our insight. We identified the perfect product, but it's considered our perfect product because we didn't even get to know the customer. The ending result is we take out their appendix, and that isn't the solution at all. So, have you ever had a salesperson come up to you in the store and start spewing out the features of a product and they didn't even ask you any questions? What was your reaction? Did the salesperson close the sale? Were you overwhelmed by all the features, or were you even listening to what was being said? I know personally I wouldn't listen because if I'm coming in and wanting to know about a product and I want to be presented with certain features that may benefit me, if I'm just being bombarded with information, that wouldn't really help me at all. So, how does that make you feel? Here's an example. The customer says, "I check the weather on my phone from time to time." All that sales consultant hears is weather and jumps all over this by telling the customer about one of the 4G Android phones, speed, sale prices, how to set it up, the accessories that go along with it, and everything else under the sun. But who is this sales consultant looking out for? Himself or herself, right? How would a consultant respond? Absolutely. The sales consultant should dig deeper by asking how important checking the weather is, or how often that the customer checks the weather, and so on. But my question to you is, how would responding in this way let the customer know that you are focused on the customer and not yourself? Absolutely. It's going to show interest in the customer needs and lifestyle. So overall, staying customer focused means not allowing yourself to make a recommendation before it is time. This is going to require discipline, and it's going to require you to be focused on being a consultant rather than a sales consultant. Rapport building questions versus fact finding questions. With rapport building questions, It allows more in-depth answers to help determine real-life needs. It also gives a customer an opportunity to express themselves. It's a great way to gain the customer's insight, and it also helps identify what type of personality you may be dealing with versus fact-finding questions. Fact-finding questions helps to uncover specific factual information about the customer. It also can discover the wants and needs to match the products and services appropriately. And it also helps narrow down the type of transaction needing to be performed. With open-ended questions versus closed-ended questions, open-ended questions are conversationally based questions. They require more than a yes or no. They also seek more than a specific answer. And most of the time, they usually begin with the who, what, when, where, how, or tell me about. Closed-ended questions. Closed-ended questions, they offer specific, short answers. They can be answered with a simple yes or no, and used in conjunction with fact-finding questions. Questions begin with do, can, will, or are. Probing questions activity. Now that we have an idea of what probing questions are and we also receive a few examples, the objective of this activity is going to be to pass the ball around to members in the opposite group. With each pass, group members must be required to recite 2 open-ended probing questions. The team with the most points and questions will win. You have 10 minutes. The rules are there are a maximum of 10 passes per group. Each member is required to participate. Only 1 pass per member. And members are not allowed to provide questions for other members. May begin. Probing questions, wrap up discussion. What was the most helpful characteristic you saw about rapport building questions? That's correct. They may help you determine the type of communicator you may be dealing with, or it's a great way to gain the customer's insight, and this will help you better position a solution. So, what do you think would happen if you only ask fact-finding questions? How important are those facts up front? Okay. And I will also say that facts can be very important, and you have to know them in order to present some rate plan or form. If we start out just concentrating on the facts, we may be perceived as looking out for ourselves rather than a customer. That is not what we want to happen. What do you think we are trying to find out when asking those questions? Or better yet, which answers are you looking for? And keep in mind, the answers should open the door to opportunities. Okay. Do you think that you uncovered the right information to create opportunities by just asking fact-finding questions? No, you can't. Sales consultants use only fact-finding questions, but consultants build rapport and learn about their customer before they ask about the factual information. Once you have uncovered an opportunity, you have earned the right to ask for all the factual information you need to recommend the right rate plan and services. There is a time and a place for both open-ended and closed-ended questions. And I want to discuss, some of the pitfalls that can be associated with some of them. What reason do you think that we should stay away from the why questions? Yes, why questions can often prompt defensiveness. And here's an example. Why did you choose that phone? This is a question that can put someone on the defensive side. How could we ask this question to find out what we truly want to know? Okay, that's a good one. And another way to look at it would be, let's say, if we ask, what features did you like about this phone that made you want it? Okay. And lastly, when is it a good time to use a closed-ended question? Yeah, that's a tricky one. Okay, so fine-tuning and open-ended question are to help curb an overzealous communicator. That would be a great opportunity to pitch a closed-ended question. Question number one, tell me about your current service. What can this question do for us? This question can open a door so wide that it can help us reduce the number of questions, or the customer just may give us small bits of information and we just have to continue to fish. Most importantly, we are beginning to build a rapport with them. What might be some information that we would gain from this question? Okay, and a few examples of some follow-up questions may include, tell me what you like about your service you have now. You want to always start with the positive. Another one would be, what are some items that you would want to keep the same if you were to switch? What are you looking for in a new phone? Those are all questions that will provide you with information and give you small bits. And sometimes we have to continue to fish for the rest. Key question number two, how will you be using your new service for personal or business needs? Now we have some good dialogue going with the customer. Let's start to get to know them even better. This question should steer the customer in the right direction. It's like there is a fork in the road, and now we know what direction to go in. So, what's a good follow up question if the customer tells us that he or she will be using it for business? Okay. Well, what if the customer said he or she was just using it for personal? What might a good follow up question be then? Okay. And a few additional examples would be, where do you work? What do you do there? Tell me about your typical work day. What does your schedule look like on an average day? Do you work remotely? Where do you use your device? Where do you travel to? Those are all great examples of follow up questions. So now that we completed the training on asking probing questions and responding accordingly, how are you feeling now? Do you feel pretty comfortable if we were to put you on the sales floor today and ask you to implement this process? Are you comfortable with doing that?